The KRYL Dominion believed fear was the most powerful weapon in the galaxy. For centuries, they conquered world after world not with fleets or plasma artillery, but with something far more primal: the fear engine, a psionic amplification device that turned courage into paralysis and hope into madness. Empires surrendered before a single shot was fired. Armies collapsed in minutes. Even the strongest alien warriors fell screaming to their knees, begging for mercy. So when humanity refused to submit, the galaxy thought Earth had lost its mind. A single battalion of humans was captured during the early stages of the war and transported to the Dominion's main interrogation citadel. The KRYL commanders gathered to watch, confident that within minutes they would break these strange, soft-bodied mammals and extract military secrets from their shredded minds. One by one, the humans entered the chamber. One by one, the aliens watched their predictions fail. Some humans shook, some cried, some collapsed, yes. But none surrendered, none begged, none spoke. And then the last prisoner was pushed forward, Sergeant Elias Ward, a quiet man with hollow eyes and an expression carved from stone. "Begin the fear engine," ordered High Warden Vesk. The machine roared to life, flooding the room with psychic terror strong enough to shatter most species instantly. But Ward didn't flinch. His pulse barely changed. The aliens stared in disbelief as the machine increased to full output, enough to kill lesser beings outright. Ward simply looked up, meeting Vesk's eyes with a slow, exhausted stare. "You think this is fear?" he said, voice cold. "I've already lived worse." That was the moment everything changed. Because for the first time in Dominion history, the fear engine broke before the prisoner did. And somewhere far beyond the containment glass, alarms began screaming. Human reinforcements were coming. The KRYL had no idea what they had unleashed. If you're enjoying these stories, don't forget to like the project, comment your thoughts, and subscribe for more HFY military sci-fi. Your support fuels more writing like this rocket fire. When the fear engine overloaded, the chamber lights exploded in a burst of white sparks, plunging the room into darkness. Emergency klaxons shrieked through the citadel, red strobes cycling wildly along the ceiling. The Dominion guards froze, unsure whether to deal with the prisoner or the catastrophic system failure spiraling out of control. Ward simply stood there, unrestrained, staring at the panicked aliens with the calm expression of someone who had already accepted death long ago. High Warden Vesk hissed, mandibles rattling in agitation. "Restrain him. Now!" 3 armored KRYL guards lunged forward. Towering insectoid warriors, each almost a head taller than Ward and armed with shock pikes designed to incapacitate war beasts twice a human size. The first jabbed his weapon at Ward's spine. Lightning fast, Ward twisted aside. The shock pike plunged into the second guard instead, dropping him in a spasming heap. Ward ripped the pike from the first guard's hands and slammed the butt end into his throat. A sickening crunch echoed across the room. The third raised his weapon to strike. But Ward was already moving. He stepped forward, drove the pike through the alien's chest, and ripped it free again in one fluid motion. Vesk stared, stunned. "Impossible. You should be delirious." "Mind broken." Ward walked toward the High Warden, pike dripping with black alien blood. His voice was quiet, almost gentle. Fear stops when you've already lost everything worth being afraid for. Before Vesk could activate his personal shield, Ward swung. The impact sent the commander crashing across the room, smashing into a control console. Sparks erupted again, systems shutting down in cascades. Across the surveillance windows, Dominion personnel were sprinting in panic. Something was happening outside, something massive. Explosions rocked the citadel, and the floor trembled beneath Ward's feet. He stepped over the dying warden and looked up at the ceiling as dust rained down. Human reinforcements weren't coming. They were already here. Through the shattered skylight, a thunderous boom echoed as drop pods smashed into the upper platforms, the emblem of the 10th Terran Shock Regiment blazing bright on their sides. The Dominion had expected broken prisoners. Instead, they got the most vengeful soldiers in human history. and they were about to learn a terrifying lesson. Never corner a species that survived extinction every single day of its evolution. The upper battlements of the Dominion's citadel erupted into chaos as Terran drop pods slammed into the Durasteel platforms like meteor strikes. Hatches blew outward and armored soldiers stormed into the open, weapons blazing. Their rifles barked with brutal rhythm, each burst tearing through Dominion troops scrambling in confusion. The aliens had expected to deal with a handful of survivors, not an elite shock unit famous across the galaxy for one thing. No retreats, no prisoners, no Hosetastion. Sergeant Juno Kael was the first out of her pod, visor flaring gold as it calibrated to the battlefield. Primary objective, extract Ward. Secondary, burn this place to bedrock. Explosive rounds thundered from her rifle as she carved through a squad of Varric brutes charging up the ramp. The impacts tore fist-sized holes through their armor, sending bodies tumbling over the railing into the abyss below. Her comm crackled with static. Juno, be advised. Internal defenses are coming online. Automated turrets on every deck. We need Ward to disable them from inside. Juno swore under her breath. Of course they needed Ward. The only human who had survived the Dominion's experiments firsthand. The only one who knew the layout of Section 9. The only one whose escape would break the psychological stranglehold the Dominion held over half the captured colonies. Copy that. We're going in hot. Inside the Citadel, alarms blared again. Defense shutters slammed down across doorways. Barricades unfolded from the floors. Dominion troops poured into the hallways, weapons raised, roaring battle cries in a dozen alien languages. And through it all, Matthew Ward walked calmly through the storm like a ghost. The fear engine had done something unexpected. It hadn't broken him. It had woken something dormant. Every sound, every vibration, every change in air pressure painted the room for him like a map. He could almost feel where every enemy stood before he turned a corner. He didn't know how or why. He just knew he wasn't afraid anymore. The entrance doors exploded inward. Juno Kael and two members of her strike team burst into the chamber, weapons raised, and froze when they saw Ward standing alone in a field of bodies. Juno's visor retracted, revealing widened eyes. Ward? How the hell are you alive? Ward wiped alien blood from his face, voice steady. Alive's not the word I'd use. A deep tremor shook the Citadel again, much heavier than before. Juno glanced upward. Reinforcements? Ward shook his head. No, something worse. They're waking the Colossus. Juno's grip tightened on her rifle. The Dominion's most terrifying war machine. The one that had wiped out entire battalions in minutes. And it was coming straight for them. The floor shook again, harder this time, followed by a metallic groan that reverberated through the walls like the growl of some ancient beast. Ceiling panels buckled as dust rained down in thick gray clouds. Somewhere deep below, enormous machinery roared to life, gears grinding, pistons slamming like thunder. Juno's squad exchanged tense glances. Everyone had heard the rumors, but none of them had believed the Dominion could actually build one. A Colossus, a creature half alive, half machine, built from the genetic remnants of extinct apex predators, engineered to annihilate armies single-handedly. Juno muttered, "Tell me that noise is just reactors overheating." Ward looked down the corridor, jaw tightening. That's no reactor. A low-frequency pulse rippled through the metal floor like a heartbeat. Boom! A second pulse, stronger, shaking the walls. Boom! Then the security doors at the far end of the hallway exploded outward. Shards of alloy spun through the air like shrapnel. Turbulent green energy flooded the corridor, warping the light around it. And the Colossus stepped forward. 3.5 meters tall, a spine plated in razor-edged armor. Flesh fused with dark biometal pulsating with radioactive heat. 6 burning eyes locked directly onto Ward. Its claws dragged long gouges in the floor, molten metal trailing behind. Even the Dominion soldiers, fearless seconds before, scrambled back in terror. One of them screamed. It's not supposed to be awake yet. The beast inhaled, a sound like a collapsing building, and unleashed a roar so powerful it shattered wall panels, knocking soldiers off their feet. Juno's squad staggered, covering their ears, armor rattling under the sonic blast. Ward didn't move. He simply stared into the beast's burning eyes, unblinking. Juno grabbed his arm. War, move. We can't kill that thing. Ward's voice remained absolutely calm, not by fighting it head-on. The Colossus charged, each step cracking the floor like an earthquake. Juno fired, her rounds hammering against its armored hide with almost no effect. What's the plan then? She yelled over the carnage. War began walking directly toward the monster. Slow, deliberate, fearless. We don't kill it. The Colossus thundered toward him at full speed. Ward's eyes narrowed. We turn it against its masters. The creature lunged, jaws opening like a steel trap. Ward dropped to the floor as claws ripped through the air where his head had been, and the beast slammed full force into the Dominion barricades, obliterating everything behind them in an explosion of armor and screaming aliens. Juno stared in disbelief. Ward pushed up from the floor, breathing hard. Follow me. This thing wasn't built to be controlled. The beast turned toward the nearest Dominion troops and started ripping through them like paper. It was built to hunt. Screams and gunfire tore through the Citadel's interior as the Colossus began its slaughter. Dominion soldiers fired desperately, plasma bolts sizzling and ricocheting off its armored hide with almost no effect. The creature moved like a biological warhead, unstoppable, furious, and terrifyingly intelligent. It wasn't simply killing, it was choosing. Every time a soldier tried to run, it cut them down first. When one attempted to hide, it dragged him out by the legs and tore him apart. It seemed to enjoy the terror, feeding on it like fuel. Juno sprinted after Ward, her squad covering their escape as the hallway behind them dissolved into carnage. So, Captain, Hale gasped between breaths. Turning that thing loose wasn't the plan, right? It was always the plan. Ward answered without looking back. Care to explain before it rips us in half too? Ward skidded around a corner, ducking under a collapsing support beam. The Dominion built the Colossus using neural lattice architecture. They wanted a weapon they could control remotely. But the lattice failed, meaning it doesn't respond to commands. Ward said, it responds to fear. The stronger the fear signal, the more violent it becomes. Hale fronet. Then why isn't it coming after us? We're terrified. Ward finally stopped and turned to face her, eyes burning with a strange clarity. I'm not. Hale bilinkit. What? Ward stepped closer, voice low. The fear engine didn't break me. It burned out whatever part of my brain processed fear. I feel nothing now. I didn't run when it woke up, so the Colossus sees me as something it doesn't understand. A threat. No, Ward shook his head. An equal. Before Hale could respond, the floor behind them collapsed under the Colossus' weight as it burst through the wall, crushing Dominion bodies beneath its massive limbs. It landed with a seismic impact that shook the entire deck. Hale's squad raised their weapons instinctively. Ward lifted a hand. Don't shoot. The Colossus turned toward Ward, rumbling like an active volcano, molten breath hissing through its jagged teeth. It lowered its head until its burning eyes were inches from his. Ward didn't blink, didn't flinch, didn't move. A long, tense silence stretched between them. And then, impossibly, the Colossus stepped aside, clearing a path for him. Hale whispered, "What did you just do?" Ward looked back once. I just convinced the most dangerous creature in the galaxy that we're not prey. The Citadel trembled violently again, but this time from outside. Through the shattered wall, Hale could see something massive moving into position beyond the window. Dominion artillery cannons rotating toward them. Ward clenched his jaw. They're going to level the Citadel to kill us all. The Colossus roared, shaking the foundations. Ward turned to the team, expression hardening. Then we take the control tower and fire their guns back. The sprint to the control tower felt like racing against an avalanche. Every corridor rumbled as Dominion artillery outside locked onto the citadel, preparing to blast the entire structure into molten slag. Automated warning sirens wailed overhead, and emergency shutters slammed down in rapid succession, sealing off access routes. Juno's squad cut through barriers with breaching charges, sparks showering the dark passageways. Ward moved point, unarmed, yet somehow clearing the path faster than soldiers carrying enough firepower to raise a small city. The Colossus crashed through walls behind them, tearing shortcuts straight through the architecture like it was fragile scaffolding. Every time the beast roared, Dominion soldiers panicked and fled rather than fight. Fear was fuel, and the citadel was filled with it. Up ahead, the tower doors slid open and a squad of Dominion elite stormed out. Sleek mirrored armor, shock lances crackling with violet energy. They spread out in a formation that screamed experience and discipline. The squad leader pointed at Ward. "Halt! By order of the Dominion's sovereignty, surrender or be." The Colossus dropped from the ceiling like an executioner's hammer, crushing the alien into paste before he finished speaking. The elite unit opened fire instantly, bolts of hypercharged plasma lighting the hallway in blinding purple arcs. Juno dove behind cover, shouting, "Weapons free!" Her squad returned fire, the hallway erupting into chaos. The Colossus charged, tearing through the elites like a storm of claws, metal, and rage. The aliens fought hard, striking the beast with focused plasma bursts strong enough to liquefy steel, but the creature barely slowed. It ripped one soldier apart with its jaws, hurled another against the ceiling like a rag doll, and smashed the last one into the reinforced wall, leaving a crater of shattered alloy. When the smoke cleared, Ward stood in the open, untouched. He turned to the squad. "We're out of time. The artillery is calibrated." Through the cracked window, the massive tri-cannon array outside glowed hotter and brighter, preparing for a full power discharge. One shot would vaporize everything inside a half-kilometer radius, including every human present. Juno's HUD pinged aggressively, flashing red across her visor. "Impact in 70 seconds. "We're not going to make it," one of her soldiers shouted. Ward stepped forward, cracking his neck like a man preparing to lift something impossibly heavy. "We don't need 70 seconds. We need 10. He turned to the Colossus. The creature lowered its head, muscles contracting beneath armored plates. Ward pointed to the blast doors of the control tower. "Break it!" The Colossus roared and hurled itself forward, slamming into the thick composite doors with a force that shook the entire structure. Metal warped. Screws tore loose. Support beams snapped. Boom! A second impact, deeper, more violent. Boom! The doors bowed inward like pressed tin. Boom! They exploded off their hinges, flying across the interior like missiles. Ward looked back, expression carved from stone. "Moo!" And they charged into the control tower where the Dominion commander waited, ready to finish what they started. The control tower chamber was a cathedral of glass, steel, and humming data conduits. At its center stood a raised platform surrounded by holographic targeting arrays, each projecting the countdown to planetary annihilation in pulsing crimson digits. 54, 53, 52. And waiting beside the controls was the Dominion commander. He was massive, taller than any of the elites they'd fought. His armor a black reflective shell laced with burning lines of violet energy. His helmet split open down the center like a metal predator's jaw, revealing his face. Pale gray skin stretched taut over high bone ridges, eyes glowing like twin plasma furnaces. A living war machine. He looked directly at Ward. "You survived." His voice vibrated like thunder in a sealed vault. "Good. I prefer killing a worthy opponent." Ward didn't flinch. "You won't destroy this planet. Not today." The commander laughed, low, resonant, chilling. "It's already done. Even if you kill me, the override is bound to my life signal. If my heart stops, your world ends." Juno's stomach dropped. A dead man's switch. No way to disarm the system. The commander stepped forward, activating a crackling energy blade the size of a full sword. So, come then, abomination. Let us see what monsters are truly capable of. He lunged. Ward met him head-on, their collision exploding in a shockwave that shattered nearby glass and knocked soldiers to the floor. Sparks showered the chamber as blade met enhanced bone and metal. The commander fought like 10 men, every movement precise and brutal. Ward countered with raw, terrifying power. No weapons, just speed and monstrous strength. Behind them, the countdown burned downward. 38. The Colossus slammed into the commander's flank, claws outstretched. But the alien spun, carving a searing arc across the beast's chest. The Colossus howled, staggering back, violet plasma burning deep wounds into its armor. Juno raised her rifle, firing burst after burst, but shots bounced off the commander's armor like pebbles. He barely noticed her existence. Ward roared, a sound that vibrated deep in bone and blood, and drove his fist straight through the commander's armor plating. The alien stumbled but laughed, spitting gray blood. You can't win. When I fall, everything falls. 26 seconds. Juno's breath tightened. If they killed him, the cannon would fire. If they didn't kill him, the cannon would fire. No path forward. Checkmate. Unless... Her eyes flicked to the glowing neural sync port embedded at the base of the commander's skull, where the dead switch signal would originate. Ward saw it too. He turned, not to the commander, but to the Colossus. Hold him! The beast lunged through blood and smoke, wrapping its massive arms around the commander and locking him in place, even as the alien's blade sliced into its abdomen. The Colossus roared, but didn't release its grip. Ward stepped behind the commander, claws forming from his fingertips like blades. Juno shouted over the alarms. Ward, if you cut the neural port, the shock could kill both of you. He glanced back, eyes burning with something far more human than any monster should have possessed. Then let it. 14. Ward drove his claws into the base of the commander's skull. The chamber filled with a blinding scream of energy. The countdown froze at 09. The commander went limp. Ward collapsed. The Colossus dropped to its knees, bleeding heavily. And everything went silent except for the crackle of dying power cells. Smoke drifted through the shattered control tower as emergency sirens slowly faded into distant echoes. The massive windows, once pristine, were now jagged wounds in the steel frame, the planet below visible through fractured glass and drifting ash. An unnatural quiet settled over the battlefield, heavy as stone. Juno forced herself up, lungs burning as she stumbled across the debris-strewn floor toward the center of the chamber. Ward lay motionless, the Colossus, bleeding from deep plasma burns, slumped beside him, its breathing shallow and ragged. It lowered its massive head, nudging Ward's body with a trembling claw, as if refusing to believe what had happened. Juno dropped to her knees, fingers shaking as she pressed 2 fingers to Ward's neck. No pulse. The words clawed at her throat, refusing to come out. Around her, Avengers Unit members staggered in, battered, armor cracked, faces bloodied. Captain Rourke froze the moment he saw Ward, jaw clenching as grief mutated into something darker. Sergeant Hale cursed under his breath, turning away so no one saw the tears in his eyes. Even hardened soldiers broke at the sight. Ward, who saved the world twice. Ward, who volunteered for the virus treatment that turned him into something more and something less. Ward, who was never supposed to become a weapon again. Juno bowed her head, whispering through broken breath. You were never the monster. A deep metallic hum cut through the silence. The station's damaged systems flickered back to life. Holographic readouts displayed rapidly cascading code and warning symbols. With a final crackle, the planetary cannon's interface lit up again, locking the countdown display into frozen numbers. Termination sequence disabled. World target released. Dominion control severed. They had won, but victory felt hollow. Juno wiped blood from her face and stood, turning toward the comms panel. With a trembling hand, She opened a broadcast line to every ship, every bunker, every civilian shelter on the planet. This is Lieutenant Juno Kael. The Dominion cannon has been disabled. The invasion command is dead. The planet is safe. Across the world, cheers erupted, distant but growing, rising like thunder through the station structure. But for Juno and the Avengers, it felt like morning wrapped in triumph. The Colossus let out a low, rumbling sound, half snarl, half cry, as its massive form collapsed beside Ward, still refusing to leave his side. Juno knelt, placing her hand on Ward's chest. A small vibration pulsed under her palm. She jerked back, eyes widening. Ward gasped, ragged, painful alive. His eyes opened slowly, glowing faintly with silver light. "Did we stop it?" he whispered. Juno laughed through tears and pulled him into a shaky embrace. "Yeah, you did. You stubborn, impossible idiot." The Colossus roared triumphantly, head lifting once more. Across the shattered station, soldiers cheered, not for victory, but for survival. For humanity. For the monster who refused to become one.